Hi, I'm Grace.
And I'm Ek, and we're off the duff.
Today we're off our duffs to talk about advice we'd love to give to our younger selves. Since this is the 30-year anniversary of our friendship, I'm kind of aiming this advice toward my 18-year-old self, and in retrospect, I think I was pretty much a bitch. And so...
I beg to differ, but go on.
And I think that back then I probably should have been kicked in the duff. So I'm personally going back in time to kick my own bitch-ass self.
All right, and what advice are you going to give yourself?
My first piece of advice is the advice that I've actually raised my own children with, and that's all about personal responsibility. Because I realized late in life that there's exactly one person who is responsible for my life experience, and that's me. And once I figured that out and I ditched my victim mentality, it turns out that by claiming responsibility and even blame, I actually also claimed my personal power. And that was a real turning point in my life. And I wish I had figured that out before I was in my mid-30s.
That's awesome. I think also the fact that you have brought this to your children shows that that is a good piece of advice, because it's something that you've thought through and worked through and now have passed it on to your children. So I think that's good. I would have just not taken things so seriously. I take things way less seriously than I used to. I always like to say I'm a grown-up when I have to be, but for the most part, I don't. I think I took things, and you may have a different perspective. We were there together, but I think definitely, and I'm giving advice to my 18 to 22-year-old self, my college-age self. And definitely, I think the first year we did a lot of fun stuff. I was in a new place and met you, and we went and did a lot of things. But I think after that, when we were in our apartment and we had a lot more responsibility, I took everything a little too seriously. Like, I didn't even let myself have fun sometimes on the weekends because, I had to go to work or whatever the next day. And I just feel like I could never have fun the day I had to work. And I just feel like I think it was a leftover bit from high school when, you've got all these expectations, teachers and parents and whoever else is expecting you to graduate. That was your job. And I always was focused on that. And I didn't kind of let loose of anything after that. And I think that's what I would do. I would come back and I would tell myself, loosen up, live a little, have a little fun, and just go with it a little bit more. Definitely.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
You can go back in time and you can smack that advice into my younger self as well.
Maybe we just need to both go back in time and bitch slap each other. We'll just come back, jump back and just bitch slap each other, and then boom, we're back to the future.
Would we leave a note for ourselves so that we would understand what the fuck just happened?
No, because we totally wouldn't do that, because we would then spend the rest of the month trying to figure out what the fuck just happened. It's great.
That's the truth.
It's like a game built in, and then 30 years later we'll go, it all makes sense now, if we remembered it.
Well, it's kind of funny about that particular piece of advice, because it sort of segues into my next piece of advice for myself, which was to go ahead and have your experiences, whatever they are, and whatever emotions happen to come along with those experiences. And then don't judge yourself for either the experience or the emotion that comes with it. Because life is experience. That's pretty much all you get when it's all said and done. It's all you take with you, if you take it with you. And so, in terms of not taking things too seriously, it kind of plays in, because I think a lot of times I would have an experience and then I would spend another month, year, 3 years beating myself up for whatever the experience was or whatever my reaction to the experience was. And in the meantime, I was limiting myself from having new experiences or overriding, negative experiences and making new choices.
Yeah.
And I think that if I hadn't been taking myself so seriously and I hadn't been judging myself so harshly, I would have really had a much easier time of it a lot of the time.
I think so too, and I don't think that I was basing it on negative experiences. I was always worrying about the what ifs. But it was what ifs that I invented in my head. So I didn't even have a lot of, I was really lucky. I had mostly good experiences growing up. I still do. I should probably knock on some wood somewhere, but not to jinx anything. But I think I've had pretty good experiences, but I invented what ifs. But
well, what's your next piece of advice?
I would say don't worry so much about what other people think about you, because chances are people aren't really even thinking about you. I think I probably started embracing that probably in my early 20s. I suppose if you go back and look at my wardrobe choices from high school, you think I probably threw that out the window a long time ago. And I guess I didn't care in some respects, but I did in others. And I think that's just natural when you're trying to find your you know. And I think I've reinvented myself a lot, and I just don't really care anymore. I mean, sometimes I do, I guess, a little bit, but for the most part, you know, I'm not here trying to win any popularity contest. Don't worry so much about what you think other people are thinking about you, because they're probably not anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. That's on my list too. Actually, there's a meme somewhere that says, what other people's opinion of you is none of your business.
Yeah.
And ever since I heard that, I've really kind of embraced it, but I only heard it about 3 years ago.
So now you're making up for lost time.
Yeah, absolutely. And there have been a lot of conscious decisions along the way. I love music. I love music festivals. And until a few years ago, I wouldn't dance because I've never thought of myself as much of a dancer. My sister was a trained dancer. And so I would just kind of hold myself in, and you know, it was like living my life clenched or something, you know, because I was so worried about, I don't know, what my butt looked like if I was dancing. And now
You're
I just
telling
don't,
me, girl.
I literally don't give a fuck. I just don't care anymore because I would rather give myself over to the experience than worry about whether or not I've got moves, you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. Because I think then you do end up with the feelings that I have, that I didn't go for it. I didn't do a lot of the things that I thought would be fun, but I would look weird or I wouldn't fit in or whatever, and didn't go. And I should have just gone, because as I've found about most things in my life, I don't really have any regrets in life. Even the weird stuff I did, you know, it's like I don't really have regrets. I've taken my lessons from what I, you know, from the experiences that I had, and, you know, even the bad experiences, and I've turned those into lessons, but I don't have regrets. And I think if I had just danced or whatever, you know, like you said, or gone to something that I wanted to go to, I still don't think I would have regrets. I think I would have actually felt better, and I wouldn't have had the first thing, which is have a little more fun, right? So I would have just gone and had the fun. And again, I always tell myself, look, in 6 months or in a year, is anybody going to care about any of this? Nobody's going to care. Even if they are paying attention, they're not going to remember, because everybody's, you know, wrapped up in themselves anyway. They're not going to remember, wow, remember that outfit that Eck wore to that thing? They're not going to remember that, and they don't care.
Definitely.
And if I wore something that I enjoyed wearing, then I had a good experience, and they're not going to remember it.
Actually, the whole thing about taking things seriously, because I think that that's kind of weaving itself through a lot of these other themes. I started calling that process of taking myself too seriously, seriosity.
Seriosity.
Like it's a disease.
Yeah.
Yeah, so whenever I feel like I've got a bad case of seriosity, then I know that it's time to shake myself out of it. And a lot of times doing something completely random or silly really helps.
Excellent.
Kind of shake up that. And we did a lot of being silly when we were younger.
We did.
But I think that once you and I didn't live together anymore, it was really easy to slip into those more conservative patterns or something.
Well, and I had apartment, and I had roommates, and then you had a kid, and so I think it changed our focus, but it didn't have to, and I think it took us a while to realize that it didn't have to change it that much. I mean, like I said, we can be grown-ups when we need to be. I get, you know, I don't know, ribbed, I guess. I'm going to call it good-natured ribbing. I'm going to pretend everybody's good-natured ribbing me. They might be actually putting me down. I don't know. I'm just going to pretend I don't notice. But I get easily, you know, abused by stupid things. And I think that comes from not doing stupid things when I was younger. And it's like, I just, you know, I get joy from that, and I'm okay with that. Again, I don't care what anybody thinks. That's my stupid thing I'm into. That's what makes me happy and gives me, you know, joy in my life. So I don't care.
I allowed having a child at 22, I mean, you know, caused me to step away from some of those silly moments that kind of really did liberate me a lot when I was a little bit younger. But then again, I mean, I guess you have to kind of concede that changing shitty diapers makes you feel pretty much like life is serious. And so, you know, I don't know. Maybe that was unavoidable. I do wish I had re-embraced it earlier than I did. But in the long run, I'm, you know, allowing myself to be on the internet and be silly anyway. So
there you go. I would think if I had a time machine to go back and actually talk to my future or my past self, I would probably just go back and I know we mentioned it at the beginning, but I think I would just go back and bitch slap myself, because sometimes I think I wasn't a good enough friend, and I would just be like, get over yourself, get out of your self-centeredness. But I think that that's what you do when you're 18, 19 years old, is you're trying to find yourself and you're so focused on that. But sometimes
Yeah.
I would like to go back and just slap myself and be the person that I am now, a little more enlightened, a little more attuned to my friends and other people's needs, and just kind of slap myself out of that. But then I guess that would take away from the fun stuff I was trying to do as well. So
Well, and you know, honestly, as someone who's been your friend for 30 years and very shortly, I can say that, you know, we as human beings and as friends have evolved. I think that our friendship, which seemed really intense and important and everything when we were at, you know, 18 years old, has evolved into something a lot more meaningful. We've grown together as people. And I don't know that I would give up that experience, to be perfectly honest. Because if you had been super enlightened and I had been just this like superficial bitch, you wouldn't have even liked me. You know what I mean?
This is true, and we never would have even made it
mean,
past the dorm room. We never probably would have gotten our first apartment. So
Exactly. I feel like we really kind of had a chance to go through life, because let's face it, some of the things that really teach you that the universe doesn't revolve around you are life experiences.
This is
and
true.
when hard stuff happens, it really is a reality check. And I think that that's part of being human and part of growing as a person. And what I really, really treasure is the fact that our friendship we've tracked each other and we've stayed relevant to each other and we've stayed important to each other. And I think we're closer now, even though we don't live together or whatnot, because we share, you know, pretty heavy stuff. I mean, we've both gone through the loss of a parent and a lot of other, you know, things together. And so I don't know. I don't think I would probably block that bitch slap. If you now had appeared in our dorm room, I would have just, you know,
you'd have just shut the door on me. Elbow. You're out
I'd be
of
like,
here.
no, leave her alone. She's gonna figure it out. I have faith.
Yep, I can see it. I totally believe it. Cool.
But you know, on that same topic, one of the things that I did say that I wish I had figured out earlier, and maybe this falls under that same category, is I wish I had been less judgmental of other people.
Yeah.
I wish I had realized that everybody's life is complicated, and if I think I'm going through pain or, you know, loneliness or whatever, I have every reason to suspect that every other person on the planet has gone through something equally complicated or equally painful. And I just wish I had been more compassionate and kinder to people. There's a lot of people I wish I had been a better person to.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful I figured that one out. I just wish I had figured it out a lot earlier.
But I think it does, like you say, fall under that same thing. It's something you learn. It's what you learn. That's why you go and have the experience of college or moving on your own or whatever it is you do, just to get out in the world, because you live in this insular little community called your family until that point, and then suddenly you're out in the world and you need to figure that out. If someone just tells you, if your parents had told you or someone older had told you that, you'd be like, whatever, pal, and just gone and done your own thing. You have to live it and figure it out for yourself. So yeah, I want to know if you guys, everybody that's watching, what would you say to your younger self? I mean, if you are that 75-year-old, hopefully you're not the 75-year-old bitch I assume I'll be when I'm 75. You know, what would you say to your 48-year-old self? If you're, you know, our age, you're in your 40s, your 50s, what would you say to your college self? Maybe you're in college. What would you say to your 8-year-old self or your 12-year-old self or something? I think 12 would be good, because that's, you know, right going into middle school. And, you know, what would you say to yourself for that? And what have you learned since that time? And what would you say to yourself? So, you know, be sure and let us know down below what you would say to yourself. I'd love to hear what other people have to say about that. So
Me too, definitely, because advice that someone gives now to their younger self might be advice that I, in this present moment, actually need.
This is true, and I think it goes both
Lo
ways.
and behold, I'm not perfect.
It could be someone older giving us advice, but we could be taking
Absolutely.
some advice from a 20-year-old who's maybe got it figured out, and we're like,
Yeah,
oh, why didn't I
absolutely.
think of that?
I've seen it happen.
Yep.
And so now maybe it's time for us to get our duffs out of here.
All right, we're off. Bye.
Bye.